In the world of politics, there are moments when governments must confront the uncomfortable truths about the systems they've put in place. The recent debate surrounding sentencing guidelines in the UK provides an excellent example of the pressure required to finally address a growing problem: two-tier justice. The fact that we've reached a point where the government feels compelled to introduce emergency legislation to override sentencing guidelines is not just a matter of politics, it's a matter of moral integrity. The British public demands fairness. They are tired of hearing that some individuals, based on their race, sex, or background, are somehow deserving of more lenient treatment within the justice system. The government must respond with the seriousness this issue deserves, and any attempt to avoid or delay action will be met with justified outrage. It is, frankly, baffling that the notion of two-tier justice has persisted for as long as it has. The sentencing guidelines proposed by the Sentencing Council, which offer preferential treatment based on pregnancy, ethnicity, sexuality, or other characteristics, are a direct affront to the fundamental principle that justice should be blind. We are told that it's essential to take into account the complexities of individual circumstances when deciding sentences. Yet, what the public is witnessing is not a nuanced approach, but rather a gross distortion of fairness. The message being sent is simple: if you belong to a particular demographic, your punishment may be less severe than that of another person who commits the same crime. This is not justice, this is division, and it undermines public trust in the very institutions that are meant to uphold equality and fairness. The government, under Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, has rightly chosen to take decisive action on this issue. The decision to introduce emergency legislation to overrule these sentencing guidelines and the subsequent promise to move forward with the changes after Easter should be celebrated. However, the delay in enforcement raises serious concerns. Why wait? This is not a time for procrastination or half measures. The government must act swiftly to restore trust in the judicial system. There is no room for hesitation when the integrity of the legal system is at stake. The public is clamoring for accountability, and the government must be responsive to this demand. The introduction of this new law is a step in the right direction, but only if it leads to the complete eradication of policies that prioritize certain groups over others. It is crucial that the law is not merely a band-aid solution to a much deeper problem. Of course, there are those who will argue that such measures are needed to account for the systemic inequalities faced by minorities. They will claim that these sentencing guidelines are a form of positive discrimination aimed at correcting historical wrongs. But let's be clear, this is not about remedying injustice, it is about creating new forms of injustice. The idea that a pregnant woman or a person from a minority ethnic background should be sentenced more leniently than someone else is a contradiction to the very concept of equality. If we are truly committed to creating a society where everyone is treated fairly, we must reject policies that create arbitrary distinctions between people based on their backgrounds. Justice cannot and should not be tailored to fit the perceived vulnerabilities of specific groups. The law must be equal for all, and it must be enforced without favoritism or bias. The refusal to accept the notion of two-tier justice is not merely an ideological stance, it is rooted in a fundamental belief that every person, regardless of background, should be subject to the same standards under the law. There is no room for moral relativism in a system designed to hold individuals accountable for their actions. The law is meant to be an equalizer, not a tool for social engineering. If the government fails to recognize this, it will do so at its peril. Let us not overlook the economic and social consequences of such misguided policies. The public, rightly, will begin to question the efficacy and legitimacy of a justice system that offers more lenient punishments to certain individuals based on their personal characteristics. This has profound implications for the way the public views law enforcement and the judicial process. If people believe that their government and the justice system favor certain groups over others, it erodes social cohesion and creates divisions within society. This is a dangerous precedent to set, and one that can have lasting ramifications. In the final analysis, the government's swift response to the Sentencing Council's controversial guidelines is a critical moment in the battle for justice and fairness. There are no easy answers, but the principle of equal justice under the law must be upheld. The Prime Minister, despite delays in implementation, has shown that he understands the gravity of this issue. It is now up to the government to ensure that the law is applied uniformly, without discrimination. The message must be loud and clear. No one, regardless of their background, should be given preferential treatment in the eyes of the law. Any attempt to preserve these two-tier justice guidelines is an affront to the core values that this country was built upon. It is time to restore integrity to our justice system, and it is time to hold everyone accountable equally.